Good evening. This is Dean D. Davison, liveweatherblogs.com. This is student meteorologist Dean D. Davison. Tonight I have a little special blog for you. It's going to be on the Rainfall Creek flood of July 12th and 13th, 2004, in which I recorded 13.2 inches in Tabernacle, New Jersey, which was part of the information that went into making it the thousand-year flood that it was back in 2004. That was 6 years ago today. It's hard to believe that. Um, doing a paper on it for the AMS, also doing a paper on it and a presentation with Rob Garino um, at the local American Meteorological Society, which we both were involved with in the Delaware Valley. He was the president at the time, and I was the vice president of the organization. It's funny how we are, how it goes these days, and I'm now with the liveweatherblogs.com student meteorologist. I'm happy to be there and happy to do these blogs for you, and hopefully I can do these little informational sessions and recaps of interesting events in different locations and anything that I do research wise also to give to the public here at liveweatherblogs.com. So stick with it, and you're going to see some pictures here and some data of how this occurred some 6 years ago. Enjoy. This was an interesting day in history. Like any other day, we were sitting out and doing normal stuff around Tabernacle, New Jersey, where I lived at the time. And it was a humid day, and calling for showers and thunderstorms, nothing out of the ordinary, at least that I thought at that point. Here was a synoptic map at that point. You can see where the warm front was causing the lift in the atmosphere, and a little boundary set up along Camden and Burlington counties. Also, if you take a look at the dew point temperatures, and you can see them down here, 70, 78, 77. There was even an 80 dew point. I think Atlantic City had an 80 dew point. There was a few 80 dew points that day along the coast. Well, as you know, in the summertime, you get a sea breeze. The sea breeze pushed in and collided with this boundary that was laying over top of Burlington County and forced a lot of moisture out at that point. We were looking at rain that I've never seen in my life. I had a manual rain gauge, and I would go outside every 2 hours to dump this rain gauge, and it was interesting because by the time it got to about 4 inches, I started getting water up to my ankles, and by the time I got to about 8 or 9 inches, my front yard looked like a lake, and I was up there to my knees going out to get this rain gauge. But I want this data because this data was significant in the information that the Weather Service would collect on top of the radar data to make this a thousand-year flood, and also um, I'd be very intricate into going to different locations after this flood. The water subsided, and I was able to move out of my yard. No damage was done to the house or anything, just a lot of water. Um, and I was also with the Tabernacle Office of Emergency Management at the time, and I went up there, and some of the roads were impassable. I finally got there, and I was like, do we need to do anything? I think we're in a lot better shape than a few others, such as Lumberton and Medford Lakes. Medford Lakes, they lost some dams, and that would also be significant in this event. And you'll see some pictures later what happened in Lumberton and Medford Lakes. You can see here on the next rad, here's your spot of the most rain. Um, we had 13.2 inches Tabernacle. That's exactly where I'm pointing here. We also had 100-year floods in other locations down towards Delaware, but it was unbelievable. 13.2 inches of rain was my total, and we actually took a professional rain gauge that they used the Weather Service and matched it up against mine in future rains to see how well it did, and it was within thousandths of an inch. So it was very accurate um, with the data that actually happened. And you can see the times: 11, 19, 4, 13. You can see where this all ended. This was drawn by the National Weather Service in Mount Holly. You can see, the 12-inch area, 10-inch area, the 8-inch area, 6-inch area, 4-inch area. Tabernacle was in here, and in Central Bronx County, and it was a very crazy day, to say the least. It was a interesting day at that aspect also, and we're gonna go into some pictures real shortly here. I just want to give you the synoptics of what happened that day, and now we're gonna go into pictures. So enjoy these. I just want to pull this map up. I found here, see 13.2 inches. That was exactly my point. Other places 10.4, and these are all coming through the Rainfall watershed, so that caused some major issues. Here was an interesting picture. You can see this was an outdoor center. This is normally a picnic area that was totally engulfed. You can see how high it got onto the picnic area itself. Um, you got some damage here to some of the chairs and beach chairs and all that stuff at that point. Looking at the USGS site here of this flood, see where the trees were getting caught up in the near the road here in Lumberton Vincetown Road. The top picture here shows Southampton, and the bottom picture here also shows Southampton as the water was starting to flow over the road. The damage that they had that occurred in Medford Lakes was pretty substantial. They had evacuations going on. They had a lot of water in the homes. Uh, the water came up really fast and without a lot of warning. And Lumberton, it was even crazier. Here's something of significance that actually did happen. You can see how this usually have had no water involved with it. Very low, not even a foot. Well, this canoe was wrapped around the tree, and they wound up leaving that canoe there, and it's still available to see in Medford Lakes. Kind of a symbol of what happened there that day, and a reminder of all those dams that broke. Here was some of the information. You see how the McDonald's branch in Lebanon State Forest tied a record on the state, and a new peak record flow happened at North Branch of Rancocas Creek in Pemberton. And these numbers you're looking at are drainage areas discharged. You can take a look at that information up top. And I'm going to go back down. There you go, Vincetown, new peak record. There, look at the flow rates were crazy that day. And it did a lot of damage to Lumberton and Medford Lakes for the primary. I looked at the latest information, like $30 million worth of damage occurred that day. It was definitely a very different flood, and something I will never forget as a person. It'll always be in the back of my mind. I hope you could see some of these pictures and get some insight on this great Rancocas Creek flood that occurred 6 years ago today. And I would like to thank you for watching this blog through its entirety for the Great Rancocas Creek flood. This is Dean D. Davison for LiveWeatherBlogs.com, and have a great evening. We will have your latest forecast blog coming up about an hour. This is Dean D. Davison, LiveWeatherBlogs.com.